Hello and welcome to Video Game Hangover. I'm Randy Dickinson and I'm in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania.
Hello, I'm DJ Ross. I'm in Mountain View, California.
On every episode of Video Game Hangover, we talk about the games that have been keeping us up at night. This week, we're talking about Dragon Quest III HD-2D, Monster Hunter Wilds, Rez Infinite, and more.
Ooh, and more, and even more.
And more. It's the and more that everyone's going to stick around for.
Yeah, well, I want to know what that is. What is it?
I'm curious myself. We'll find out.
Oh, wait, neither of us know?
You're the and more DJ.
Oh. I don't know how to take that. Is that a good thing?
Yeah, sure. You're worth sticking around for.
Oh, well, that's nice of you to say. I was thinking, should I introduce myself after the games list from now on? I'm just like, and by the way, I am also here.
Sure. And with me as
whatever.
Always.
Yeah, exactly.
No, and more is I finished Legend of Zelda Echoes of Wisdom.
Oh, this game. Okay.
Yeah. Like
a lot of this.
97 consecutive weeks of this game.
Yes, been playing it since before it came out.
Yep. Yeah.
That's just how long it feels.
Been playing it since 2022.
Impressive.
Yeah. But finished it. I'm not good at finishing video games, especially big video games like this. I don't get to see credits roll very often. I get distracted by some shiny new thing or lose interest, which is a very real problem sometimes, or, life gets in the way and I forget what the hell I was doing or what game I was playing or how to play the game I was playing. Yeah. So, but yeah, this one stuck with it. It had sticking power. And, yeah, I've talked to them a lot about it on recent episodes, so I won't necessarily rehash any of that stuff, but really, really enjoyed it. I was excited to get across the finish line and roll credits on it. It drops you right back in the game, and you get to keep doing all the things that you were doing before.
The second quest mode?
I don't know if it adds new quests. I did find that there were quite a few things that I had not done or even seen before. So I'm not sure if I just missed them on the first pass or if it added them after credits. Yeah, the game was really good. I'll share this with you, DJ, because you were playing it at one point. And our listeners too.
At one point, yeah.
At some point in the recent past. The game is really good at telling you this is the point of no return. Basically, your little sidekick says, do you have your affairs in order? From that point, I went back to the main game, and I had only had, I forget how many, like, half as many hearts as you can get in the game. You usually get the 2 rows of hearts, right? And I only had 1 row of hearts, so I was like, let me get some more hearts before I wander in to fight the big bad at the end of the game. And spent quite a few hours just chasing down heart pieces all over the map that I had somehow missed the first time I played it. And a lot of those heart pieces were tied to like other little quests and little, hey, find this thing for me, or go to this place on the mountaintop and talk to this guy for me, and I'll give you a heart piece and things like that. So I did a bunch of those things that I had somehow bypassed the first time through the game, and got myself quite a few more hearts. Each heart piece is a quarter of a heart. 4 is a new heart. And I got like 5 or 6 more hearts doing that. So felt appropriately bulked up and took on the boss battle. Fun little twist at the end. That I will absolutely not spoil here, but it was definitely a very cool approach to fighting the final boss, particularly for a Zelda game. Yeah, liked it a lot. I was really thrilled with it. And
wait a minute. Was the fun little twist that you're not going to reveal the thing that you revealed to me before the show?
Oh, what did I reveal to you before the show? I don't think so.
Okay, maybe not. Maybe I was reading into it too much.
Okay, yeah. I don't think I would share that. I don't. It feels like it should be a secret.
Okay, never mind. Probably a different thing. There was something you told me before we started recording, because I was asking you how the end of the game was, which is a stupid question to ask if I haven't finished the game.
Right. Yes. Yeah.
And you said something, and I was like, "Oh, that's not something that I expected."
Okay.
So it's like, I should stop asking questions at this point.
I don't know what that is. Yeah, no, the thing that I told you was not a spoiler. No.
Okay.
Yeah. And I don't honestly, I don't know what is and is not a spoiler in this game.
Who knows?
At this point, but I know that people like to sort of like experience things themselves for the first. I prefer to experience things myself rather than sort of hear about it or read about it on the internet. So yeah, that's all I'll say about that. But I liked it. Fun twist. Definitely a unique way of like of rolling credits on a video game. I thought in a game that is was a pretty unique proposition all the way through, with Zelda being the main character, and her fighting kind of by proxy through much of the game. Yeah, totally dug it. Had a really good time with it. It's super charming, and there's a lot of collectathons in the game. There's a lot of like, you can find every echo, you can find every heart, you can unlock every smoothie recipe. The game gives you tools when you go back in after the final boss to determine where you are in that hunt, if that's important to you. If you're the kind of person who wants every echo in the game or every heart, there is a device in the game post-credits that point you in the right direction for finding the last of those things. So I was like, oh, maybe I want to do that too, because I really like hanging out in this version of Hyrule and doing these things.
That's something that I think Zelda games, I mean, they're not the only game that does this, but there's just like more stuff to do after you finish it, whether it's, on top of like actual new post-game stuff, but you can go collect the rest of the hearts, or you can go find other characters who have things for you to do that you didn't address during like the first playthrough. Yeah. But it seems like, I generally feel like I could hang out in Zelda world in Hyrule for a few more hours, even though I finished the game. So it's nice that there's stuff that you can do other than just wander around.
Definitely. Yeah. I have been itching to play Dragon Quest that came out a couple weeks ago, and I was adamant I was not going to touch it until I finished Zelda, because I knew once I started Dragon Quest I would not finish Zelda. So I didn't spend much time doing all of the post-game stuff because I quickly wanted to shift my focus to the new game. But it's still there, and I could still go back and do it. And there's surprisingly relatively little left to do, I think. I forget how many total echoes there are in the game. Echoes are things that you can copy, for people who don't know this. Things in the game that you can copy and then reproduce to your aid later in the game. And it told me that there were, maybe 5 or 6 that I had not found and encountered and copied.
That's not many.
Yeah, but in a game this big, to only have 5 or 6 that I have not found is felt like I did a pretty good job finding them in the first place.
Yeah. Well, no, that's why I say I would expect there to be more, but it sounds like you were pretty comprehensive, pretty thorough.
I tried. Yeah, I mean, certainly anything was kind of sparkly or seemed like a new version of a boss that I had not fought yet, I'd made sure to fight one.
You can copy bosses?
Well, I mean, the mini bosses, like the bad guys.
Oh, mini bosses. Okay.
Yeah, I was like, not the mega bosses or anything like that. No.
Got it. Okay. Yeah. I was like, I definitely did not copy the last boss I fought. I hope I didn't miss out on that.
What is the and this will be the last thing I say about Zelda. I feel like I've sold this game pretty aggressively for the last 96 weeks. What is the thing in the newer Zelda games that is one of the big scary monsters? It looks like a Pegasus. I guess no wings. What's the thing that looks like? What's a horse?
A horse?
A horse with a person's body.
A horse? A Lionel.
A Lionel. Okay, I had Minotaur in my head for some reason.
First you're just describing a horse, a regular horse with a Pegasus with no wings.
A horse, of course.
Which are definitely in the recent Zelda games, but then just like a horse with a human body, a human with a horse body. Like, what are we doing? No, I'm pretty sure it's a Lionel, though.
A mermaid, but the top is a fish, the bottom is legs.
Reverse mermaid.
No. Lionel. The Lionels were terrifying in the Breath of the Wild games.
Oh, yeah. Really bad.
Yeah, and I don't know that I successfully beat one ever, honestly. And the internet was filled with like how to beat a Lionel on the first try.
You beat one.
Did I?
I remember you talking about beating one.
Okay.
I'm sure you did.
Maybe I did. But there were different versions. There's different sort of like classes of Lionels, and they get much tougher, I think, at some point.
That's true.
Yeah, the Lionel is in Echoes of Wisdom, and I don't think I encountered one ever. Yeah. So I know I've not copied a Lionel. So that is out there waiting for me somewhere.
It's on your bucket list. You just copy a Lionel.
Yep. Well, I mean, to copy one of the monsters, you have to defeat them. You can't copy them otherwise. So
yeah, that's true.
Yeah. So I've got a date with Destiny.
Well, good luck with that.
Yeah. Thanks. But yeah, Echoes of Wisdom, really good. Highly likely it will end up on my Game of the Year list. We'll find out in a couple weeks.
Yeah, I gotta wrap that thing up. I made the irresponsible choice and just started Dragon Quest anyway, despite being probably not even halfway through Zelda. But we'll see how it goes. Yeah,
I mean that's fair. That's reasonable for you. I would expect that's very on brand for you. I think. Yes.
Oh, that's fair. I get a pass. Okay.
Yes, you have an entire online persona built around a Dragon Quest character. So
I don't know if I'd built a persona around it. I feel like it's kind of arbitrary at this point. But sure, no, I can see how you would interpret it that way. I do feel like I have to represent more for Dragon Quest because I just use a metal slime avatar everywhere in case people don't know what we're talking about.
Yeah,
but I can't just have that as my profile picture and be like, no, I don't even care about those Dragon Quest games.
I don't play those games. Yeah. Yeah.
Never played them.
Yep. I mean, it is so ingrained in I guess sort of my kind of internet association with you that anytime I see a slime anywhere on the internet, I think, oh, I wonder if DJ knows about this. Should I send this to him? They made, slime ice cube molds. They made slime stuffed animals you can put on your couch. I wonder if DJ's seen this.
Oh, there's so many. Pretty much every single product you can imagine has a slime version of it.
Yeah.
It's kind of just overwhelming.
Do you indulge when I know you've been to Japan a few times? Do you shop for that kind of stuff? Do you have a lot of that in your collection?
I had to cut myself off. I was there's just so many things. Seriously, anything you can imagine. In fact, some things you can't even. You're like, I didn't realize this was a product, and yet there is a slime version of it. I just had to be I had to stop buying stuff purely because it is a slime, because that is the novelty is past. But sure enough, the last time, I was there earlier this year, and of course I have to stop at the Square Enix store or whatever, and they had all these slime things, and I was just oh, do I need a slime, whiskey tumbler or whatever? They're just so, yeah, there's a lot of stuff you can buy. You could convert every object in your house to a slime version if you really wanted to. But no, now I'm sort of well, if there's something I need where it would be practical for me to own the slime version of it, maybe a hat or something. But I also kind of assume, and this is not, not to discredit Square Enix or anything, but I feel probably the slime version, while it's fun that it is the slime version of whatever object, probably not the best version of whatever that thing is. So if you really do want a whiskey tumbler, maybe you're better off buying a not slime themed version.
Oh, right, sure.
But I don't know. The slime tea kettle did look pretty cool, but I held off buying one for myself.
Yeah, probably shouldn't make a lot of tea in that. I imagine that's probably ideal to just put on a shelf somewhere and never boil water in it. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's the other thing is I don't want to just end up collecting a bunch of stuff and then have it on a shelf forever.
Yeah.
For a lot of my other, all the slime stuff that I acquired before I cut myself off just exists still.
Cool. All right. So, do we have any before we get into the Dragon Quest discussion?
Before we get deeper into Dragon Quest,
old business, new business. Monday night stream coming up on December 9th, 10 p.m. Eastern time. We will be streaming something to be determined. We have not quite put a finger on what that thing will be yet. But you can go to Twitch.
We had such a good game planned, and it turned out it's not co-op, so that was very disappointing. Yeah. But we will figure something out.
Yeah, but it is co-op, but it's just not our version of co-op.
Oh, right. Yeah, we would have to, well, maybe you just take a plane over to California.
Yeah, I'll be right there.
We'll do an in-person stream.
So yeah, it was couch co-op, and DJ and I don't share a couch. So, yeah. So the replacement thing is TBD. Go to twitch.tv/VGHangover Monday night, December 9th, 10 p.m. to find out what that thing will be. We will, of course, announce it on our Discord as well. You can get a link to that at VGHangover.com. So make sure you jump into the Discord for the inevitable stream announcement.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And more pressingly, though, well, actually, no, this happens afterward, but you can start acting on this now, is our annual season finale Drunktacular episode is coming up. It's going to be in your feeds, in your podcast feeds in the next few weeks, but we're also going to do a live stream on Friday, December the 13th. Friday the 13th, Drunktacular.
Oh, geez.
What's going to happen?
That seems ominous.
It's a little, I'm not really superstitious. I don't believe anything will actually happen because it's on the 13th, but at the same time, it's like, ugh. That's weird. But anyway, this is our season finale episode where we just kind of hang out and take your listener calls and questions while enjoying a few adult beverages or whatever you've got.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
But anyway, like we said, we'll be live streaming on the 13th, but up until then, we need your help to make this happen, which is we need you to send in your burning questions for us to answer on the show, because otherwise it'll just be us hanging out talking about Dragon Quest, apparently.
Probably, yeah.
And they can be gaming-related questions. They can be non-gaming related questions. They can be just whatever's on your mind, whatever you, like the burning questions you just need an answer to.
Mm-hmm.
And we will strive to answer them as well as we possibly can.
I don't know where you've landed in life that you need DJ and I to answer those burning questions for you, but but we're here. It's a service we provide here at Video Game Hangover. So,
yes.
Go to VGHangover.com/drunk. Should be easy to remember, to find out some more about the Drunktacular episode and some direction on how you can submit your questions. You can always, email us. I'm at randy@VGHangover.com. He is DJ@VGHangover.com. There is always contact@VGHangover.com. You could DM us on, what apps are we on? We are on Discord. You could DM us on Discord. You can slide into our DMs. Yeah.
We're still on Twitter. We have a Blue Sky now. We're not really we haven't really figured out what to do with it yet, but we're on there. If you if you want to DM us on there, and this is fun, you can give us a phone call. If you have one of those telephone things, people still use those.
Yeah.
You can just call us at 682-999-VGH1. Record a little question for us. And we'll play it back on the show and then give you an amazing answer.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the fun way to do it, because then we actually have your voice. We can insert the audio into the show, and it's like you're in the room with us.
Yeah, it's exactly like that.
Yeah. So, we would love to have your help to assemble our big season finale episode. There are a ton of ways there that you can do it. Bottom line, go to VGHangover.com/drunk for lots more information, and we hope to see you on Friday the 13th.
Yeah. Ooh. Just like that movie I watched.
Not that kind of Friday the
13th. Well, it could be. Who knows what'll happen? Better get a good deal on hockey masks right now.
Yeah.
Go to the little Spirit Halloween store where it closes down.
I wonder if people are like, do people do that kind of stuff on stream? It's just like, they're like, horror movie.
Like murder people?
Not murder people, but like, there's got to be theme stuff, right? I imagine people do like holiday shows and Christmas shows and Arbor Day shows and stuff like that. So it would make sense that somebody somewhere is going to be doing spooky Friday the 13th episodes on Twitch.
Oh, yeah, just like a spooky version of their regular stream or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, maybe it should be a spooky Drunktacular.
Something thematic.
Yeah. Ooh.
We've never done spooky.
Send us your spookiest questions. Ooh.
The VGH Spooktacular.
There we go. Oh man, we should do a whole rebrand of this here.
It just writes itself. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. Speaking of streaming, last week we played Webfishing together on stream.
Oh, that's the and more. I forgot about Webfishing.
Also that. We were delighted to be joined by a few members of the VGH community, both in chat and kind of in person in the game, which was fun.
Yeah.
So thank you for that. But what is webfishing? How to define webfishing? It is a adorably kind of low res fishing game where you are a cat or a dog, and you just fish. You kind of hang out. You walk around a little village. You stop in shops. You cast a line in some body of water and hopefully pull out some giant fish.
Good place to cast a line if you have the option.
Yep. There's a board with a bunch of like objectives for you to do, all of which are like catch 5 fish, catch 10 more fish. And it's a lot of like socialization and chatting. It really is not much more than like a chat room where you hang out and fish with your friends and just chat about whatever.
That's more or less what it is. It's like they took a fishing minigame from, name your favorite game with a fishing minigame in it, and just, extracted it, and that's the game. And also your friends are there, and they're saying weird stuff. I was a little skeptical at first when, because like if you just say fishing minigame, at this point I'm just like, do I need another one of those? Do I need an entire game where that's all you do? But it was strangely compelling. I think maybe the fact that it was separated from, there wasn't a larger game that I was distracting myself from to play the fishing minigame helped a little bit. It felt like they put a little more attention into it, and there's a little more depth than your typical fishing minigame. Like you could like sell your fish to earn money, and you could use the money to buy upgraded equipment and like upgrade your abilities. Oh no, the abilities came from the equipment upgrades. But yeah, it had like some RPG elements to it.
Yeah, different kinds of bait to catch bigger and more exotic fish. Yeah. We figured out that there were some little mechanics by which, like if it's raining in the game, there's this is very Animal Crossing. Yeah, different types of fish are available during different types of weather or different times of day. So there's a lot of, fun little kind of light RPG mechanics to the game that make it slightly more than just, a copy paste of the fishing minigame from insert video game name here.
Right.
Yeah. Without being totally overbearing, though, I think at no point was it like, oh my God, there's so much to learn. It really was pretty light and no fail states or anything like that. We were lucky to be joined by, I'm sorry, I forget their online name, DJ, who played with us.
Rabbit Heart from the Discord.
Heart. Yeah. They had played the game quite a bit prior to us getting online with it and knew a lot of the secrets. So they were generous enough to kind of like, oh, make sure you stop at this building and talk to this person. Make sure you what was it? Jump on the blue mushroom because it rockets you in the air and launches you across the lake to another side where there's another village and all kinds of other stuff. So yeah, they knew all kinds of little secrets in the game that kind of helped us out, but it was kind of delightfully low stakes and very social. We were just chatting about kind of a little bit of everything and things we were discovering in different corners of the game as we were exploring. And yeah, it was kind of fun. I would not be surprised if I found myself kind of going back to this every now and then to poke at it.
Yeah, it kind of felt like, how an online Animal Crossing game should be. Because like when I think of actually playing Animal Crossing online, the experience is just so clunky and kind of restrictive. But it was like you said, there's no pressure, there's no fail states. You're just kind of existing. It's a little more of a game than Animal Crossing is, perhaps. But it was cool. Like very good, very chill atmosphere.
Yeah, and you didn't have to balance it with being pressured to like decorate your house or farm or get the coolest villager to move into your town or anything like that.
Right.
It was, all of the things that I think people feel either overwhelmed or annoyed by in Animal Crossing are kind of trimmed out of it. You still get kind of cute anthropomorphic characters, all sort of people to buy. Your friends that have joined up, or are the little residents that live in the town and run the shops and stuff like that. But yeah, you don't have to deal with any of the doing chores and cleaning your house and collecting bugs and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It did feel like, maybe you can unlock like bug catching or something if you level up enough. It just felt like that's a natural extension of it, but I'm pretty sure it's just fishing at this point.
Yeah. Web bug catching is a different game.
Yeah, that's next door.
But yeah, so this is a weird little fun thing. I think it's only on Steam right now. It is $5. Is that accurate?
Yeah, it's pretty cheap.
Yep.
A lot of people are using it just as like a chat room to hang out with people and maybe do a little fishing on the side. So
yeah,
it's fun. It's fun to see how much this has taken off, because I think it's just one person developing it and trying to support it.
That's cool. Yeah. So, I mean, you can create your own chat room. It can be password protected too, so you can get only your friends into it. Might be a fun thing during the holidays if you have friends that are in remote locations, to get them all into a web fishing chat room and kind of hang out and socialize. But you can also join other people's kind of public chat rooms too, and there's a big list of them when you join up. So yeah, it feels very much like joining a web chat in 2007.
Yeah. Except with more fishing.
With much more fishing, yeah. Yeah. What a cool, weird thing to become popular.
Yeah.
Yeah.
People love a fishing minigame, apparently.
People also love hanging out and bullshitting with their friends. So
yeah, everybody's favorite things.
Yeah. So there you go.
You can drink a beer. You can smoke a cigarette. I forgot about all those things. There's all these weird little, like, a bunch of extra stuff you can buy at the store, which was unexpected.
Were there cigarettes?
I think. Well, now that I've said that there were cigarettes, now I'm not so sure. But I saw
there were definitely beers. I know there were beers. Yeah.
I had several of them. I saw somebody posting about smoking a cigarette in the game, so I just assumed they were talking about a real thing. But I don't think I personally smoked a cigarette in the game.
Yeah,
I had my hands full. I had the fishing rod and a beer. I couldn't hold a cigarette.
Right. Yeah, these are things that never happen in Animal Crossing. So
no, what do they have in Animal Crossing? It's like the party juice or whatever.
The party juice. Yep.
And there's no cigarettes to be seen. They don't even have a cleaned up Animal Crossing equivalent.
No. Oh, that's funny. I forgot about party juice. That was for like Mardi Gras or something like that, right? It was Isabelle like, on the square.
What are you putting in this party juice?
Yep. It makes you dance or something, right? I think that was it. Like you drink it and you do a little dance, and I'm like, oh, I know it's in there.
Yeah. I know what they're insinuating.
I've had that drink.
Yeah.
Good times.
Yeah. Big fan.
So what else should we talk about? What do you got?
So Dragon Quest.
Dragon Quest. Okay, well.
How's Dragon Quest?
We have an outline. We should stick to the outline. It's beautiful. I'll give you that. I've not played as much as you, I suspect. I know I've not played as much as you. It's a looker. It is a very stunning game.
Yeah? You think it looks good?
Yeah, I think they've done a really nice job with it. I mean, I've seen what the original version of Dragon Quest 3 looks like, and this is definitely an upgrade.
Yeah. No, that's fair.
It's very pretty. Yeah, I think they did a really nice job with the HD-2D thing. Yeah, it's I was a little overwhelmed at the start, and you can tell me if you felt like this was your experience too, because you get into it, you get kind of the little preamble in the beginning, and then you have to do like a personality test. Where it asks,
this thing, yeah,
this thing. Is this in the original version of Dragon Quest 3?
This was in it, yeah.
Okay.
So I think I have not played the original Dragon Quest 3.
Okay.
I played the remake that came out for like Game Boy Color or whatever in the early 2000s, whenever Game Boy Color was popular.
Gotcha.
At some point, maybe I should go back and play. I guess it'd be Dragon Warrior 3 on the NES, but the Game Boy version was quite good.
So yeah, the personality test is this sort of disembodied voice in the sky is asking you a series of like, what would you do in this situation? Do you find that you prefer to hang out at home or go out and be adventurous? Do you, if you were, I don't know, in a room with $100 on the table, would you steal the money or would you leave it there? Like things like that.
Was that an actual question?
No, that's not one of them. No.
Okay. Yeah, but I mean, they're all sort of just like these morality questions. Or
sure.
Not all of them, actually. Some of them are like you said, sort of your preferences.
Yeah. And I know as a gamer and as a person who's been on the internet before that behind the scenes it's formulating some thing for you.
You're making decisions that you don't realize.
Right. And that you will probably maybe regret later. But what it's doing, I believe, is sort of like assembling your starting character, essentially. There are like 30 different classes that you can be initially in this game, I believe. It is steering you into one of those classes. I don't know if you have the luxury of being able to change it. I know you can change jobs for
like
yourself.
The personality types or
right.
Whatever.
Yeah.
And
you can change your job, right? You don't change your personality. I don't know. But
you
whatever
can,
kind of
but it's not as straightforward as changing your job.
Got it. You have to read certain books or something like that you find in the game,
exactly.
Right? So yeah, it determines which one of those 30 personalities you are, and I think in a roundabout way also influences what your party personalities and makeup will look like too, and that then determines what jobs you can do later. So if you don't end up kind of with optimum personality types, you could be walled off from certain jobs, I believe. There may be mechanisms for being able to fix that. I'm not that far, but I found this to be very stressful.
I could see how that might happen.
Yeah. So
it doesn't. So I have to confess, I don't fully understand how it directly affects you and like what limitations it places on you if you answer questions in a specific way. I feel like it does not really make a huge difference. So like it certainly if you're trying to like min-max have the most optimal character and party possible, you should be answering questions in a specific way.
Right.
But I don't remember like stressing out about it too much the first time I played this, and I certainly didn't do it this time. I just answered questions honestly. Because I feel like, like first of all, there are just ways to, like you could read books to change your personality later. You get a bunch of like stat seeds throughout the course of the game to balance out your stats if you need to for some reason. But I don't think they like lock you out of anything if you answer questions incorrectly.
Oh, okay.
Like maybe they do, but there must be a way to correct that later on.
Yeah, I mean it would not be a very good video game if you ended up with some like personality type that can't do anything and doesn't go anywhere and completely breaks the game for you. So across all of the stats that you have in the game, ultimately what it does is it kind of plus ones and minus ones, a few of them. It really kind of determines your starting point in a lot of ways, right?
I think it determines your starting stats a little bit, and I think the personality probably influences your stat growth when you level up. At least that would be my best guess at what's happening. Which I'm a little concerned about, or maybe I should be looking into this more, because like you don't want to end up with your mage getting like a boost to their strength and whatever like physical stats whenever they level up. Like that might be a problem. But also like even if that you ended up with that situation, I don't think it would prevent you from finishing the game.
Well, good. I mean, it would not be a very good game if that was the case. So,
yeah.
But yeah, totally frozen when I got to that point and had to like put the Switch down and Google quickly like what is the best personality type in Dragon Quest 3 HD-2D, and then I went down a rabbit hole of like YouTube videos and spreadsheets that people had made of like how to answer the questions in a very particular way. And at some point I was just like, I think I just need to play this game. I think I just need to enjoy the video game.
At that point, you're just not having fun anymore. You're just like looking at a spreadsheet.
I mean, like the research was fun, but like that's not the game, right? I mean, so if the goal is to play Dragon Quest, yeah, but my goal was to play Dragon Quest 3, and I was clearly not doing that in this situation. So I did have to like put the phone down and pick the Switch up and just throw caution to the wind and do the thing.
That's good. I'm glad that's where you ended up.
Yeah. I did. There was sort of like here's exactly the 10 answers you should give to end up at a particular optimized, and I'm like, that also feels a little bit like cheating, I think.
There's isn't there like a very specific sequence where if you like do it correctly, you get a special outcome that is kind of rare? Is that this game I'm thinking of?
That I don't think I encountered in any of the research I did. That's interesting, though.
Okay, I think it's like I don't remember how this would happen, but it's like you get a special item or something. This could be a completely different game. Also,
okay. You end up being a sociopath and nobody likes you, and
yeah, yes, it's like when you don't put enough points into language and Fallout or whatever.
Is that a thing? I didn't know that. That's funny.
I don't know if it's true with the later Fallout games, but in the earlier ones, if your intelligence was too low, you just like didn't get dialogue from other characters, or you like couldn't respond to them or in real words or something like that.
Just a drooling idiot. Yeah.
Yeah, they really leaned into just like the role playing aspect there.
That's fun.
It was super fun. Yeah,
that's how it should be. Yeah, absolutely.
I think so. Right. I mean, that seems like an extreme case. Like you. Hopefully you have to be deliberately setting your intelligence that low. I don't think you can end up with a situation like that in Dragon Quest.
Yeah, at least this sort of not in my earliest experience. Like I said, a lot of the stats, strength, intelligence, yada yada, were really just kind of +1, -1 from some of the other ones. So somebody had gone through and kind of put the pins up or pins down for all of these 30 different personality types. And you're really just kind of rolling the dice and getting, a little bit of something. Maybe you're a little bit better at magic in the beginning and you can't use boomerangs right away, but it does feel like ultimately over time, some of those things start to level out. Plus you get 3 other party members that you can, more or less play this game with as well. So you can build a team that is a little more optimized, I think, over time.
Right. Plus, I think, if this is kind of a drastic case, but if you don't like how one of your party members develops, you can just get rid of them and get a new one.
Oh, cool. I did not know that.
I think so, because there's a whole like guild or bar or whatever it is, the place where you go to recruit people. It just seems like you can just do that endlessly if you feel like.
Oh, nice. Just re-roll.
Yeah, exactly. And, it's a bit of a chore to have to level somebody back up again. But like I said, it's kind of an extreme case.
Yeah. Cool. So, yeah, I've done just the kind of the beginning stuff. I did all that stuff.
That was as far as you got.
I did my research, wandered around a little bit. But other than that, I've not spent really a lot of quality time with Dragon Quest. So I will defer to you from this point forward. I just wanted to sort of like say my piece about how kind of totally broken by the beginning of the game I was and lost a little bit of time. The Shin Megami Tensei games were really good for this for a while too, is that you had to make some pretty serious choices very early on in like Shin Megami Tensei 3 or something like that. And I was like, whoa, I have follow-up questions. It was like, do you want this to be this or this thing? And I'm like, well, I need more information. I want to know what is that? What am I committing to? And I don't think you could change them in those games.
Yeah.
So it was really, pretty life or death in that situation. So
it's a little questionable when they make you do something like that at the start of like a JRPG, especially.
Yeah.
Because it's like, okay, I'm kind of cool with them giving me this like personality test style character design or whatever.
That is like a cool and engaging way of doing it. Shin Megami Tensei was not quite so elegant, I don't think, but.
But then, you just think like, okay, well then I'm going to be living with these choices that I don't fully understand for the next 80 hours or so. I hope I'm not just sabotaging myself.
Right. Yeah. Yes. It's the Telltale thing where it's sort of like, Randy will remember this later. I'm like, what? What did I do? Tell me what I did. Are you mad at me?
I mean, sometimes I get antsy just choosing a class to begin with, even if I know I can change it later. It's like, well, what if I don't want to be this character for the next, like the whole rest of this game?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, right at the very first screen is, do you want to be the hero or the heroine? And I'm like, oh, wait a minute.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Is there a benefit? Should I be one or over the other? Yeah, and I guess some of them do wall you off from ultimately future jobs, but just like real life, I guess. I think I read that somewhere that, like, if you want to be, I guess one of the examples that I remember is that to be the vamp in Dragon Quest 3. A vamp is one of the personalities, I guess.
Okay.
You can't be that if you're the hero. You can only be that if you're the heroine. So some of it is, I guess, sort of like gendered.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. But 30 personalities is a lot. It's I'm like, is there a tank and a wizard? Because that's the game I'm expecting here.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's two separate things, though. Like your personality and then the job you end up playing.
Right. Yeah, and I think I'm sort of like crossing them into one thing in my brain, but yeah.
I don't remember being this stressed out about it. The first time I played this, what I did find stressful was just like being immediately asked to pick jobs and name 4 characters in my party. So I was just like, oh, I thought I was going to get to play this game today, but now I have to think about this a lot. But I don't remember the personalities being a huge thing.
Cool. Do you not have like 4 names at the ready for every RPG that you have to play?
I kind of do, but like not at the time. Like not 20 years ago. So I had to think about it for a while.
Yeah.
And then for this one, I was like, okay, well, I just want to have that same party again. And then I couldn't remember two of the character names. So I actually dug up my old Game Boy Color cartridge, and I had to recharge my Game Boy Advance to plug it in. And I was like, oh, that's what they were. But I got them, and they're back. So it's just like old times. It's my old party again.
Oh, nice. You were just trying to resurrect your old party from
the
first version.
Don't need to get crazy with this. I just want to have a similar experience to compare. I tend not to go for the crazier jobs anyway. So I've got the hero, got a monk, and I was gonna say black mage and white mage. That's a different game. But it's like the wizard and the priest. So it's a pretty typical RPG party, I feel like.
Yeah.
I think some people will take the warrior over the monk, but I like the monk for whatever reason.
Yeah. I ended up with, I forget the entire makeup of it. It's been a day or two since I've looked at it, but it's I ended up with a monster trainer.
Oh man, going right for the crazy stuff.
It seems very like Dragon Quest. And yeah, certainly the hero. And I ended up with him. Well, you said wizard, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I forget who the 4th member is.
You gotta have a healer or somebody, right?
Yeah, I've gotta, right? I hope so.
I think so. I mean, I feel a little like boxed in because, well, first of all, you just need to have a healer. I feel like unless you're doing some weird stuff with items or something like that, or maybe the monster trainer can handle it.
Yeah.
But then I'm like, yeah, so let's see, what are my options? A healer? I probably should get a magic user, get the wizard, maybe a physical fighter, and then that's the monk or the warrior. So then that's the whole party already.
Yeah.
Maybe like later on, once I get to the place where you can change jobs, maybe I'll switch it up. But then I'm just like, can't get rid of my healer. Who's gonna heal?
That was kind of one of the things that I knew about Dragon Quest III going in, is that you do end up taking on parties of monsters. So it is beneficial to have either weapons or magic spells that will do party damage rather than isolating a single enemy.
Oh yeah.
So I wanted to make sure that I didn't. Boomerangs are really good for hitting multiple enemies, so I wanted to make sure I didn't get walled off from using boomerangs at any point. And did it with magic. I wanted to make sure I had somebody who could, do party damage across, 10 slimes when I was facing them.
Yeah. The wizard is so good in this, or at least early on. Been taking out a lot of those groups.
Nice, good to know.
Yeah. And I think the hero can always use a boomerang, so you're set there until you change the hero's job. which I don't remember if you can even do. I think the hero might always have just the hero job, but I could be misremembering.
I played Dragon Quest IX without doing any new jobs at all. Just
I know, yes, kind of infamously.
Accidentally, but still.
Yeah. Due to some ambiguous advice from somebody who... don't remember who that was. Who can say? Well, I feel like changing jobs in this is a much bigger deal than it was in Dragon Quest IX, at least if I'm remembering correctly. Like, you have to be a little more careful with it. That said, you should still do it. You should still try it out. I think it's still beneficial. And yeah, I'm hopefully, like, once I get to that point, I will be brave enough to try some of the weirder jobs. Maybe I'll even do a monster trainer. Who knows?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, when I played Dragon Quest IX, I knew less about kind of the language of RPGs than I do now. I've played 2 or 3 more since then. So I think I feel a little better prepared to kind of navigate some of the weirdness of a Dragon Quest game than I maybe did, God, how long ago was that? 15 years ago.
Yeah, that's it probably was like 15 years ago.
Yeah. How has the rest of your kind of early game experience been? You mentioned offline that you've been doing a little bit of grinding. What are you working on?
It is pretty much just like your bog standard JRPG. Like, you get into battles, you go to towns, do some grinding for experience and gold because you need a lot of that. Yeah, it's like. I'm not saying any of this is bad, but it's just, Dragon Quest 3 is kind of one of the OGs, one of the early JRPGs, so it like established a lot of things that have become commonplace in more modern RPGs. It feels like they're not especially a lot of frills going on. Like, the job system was a big deal back then, but like you said, like, since then you've played Dragon Quest IX, and there are a whole bunch of other games with a job system similar to this. So, like, not a lot of it feels really novel, but I feel like a lot of the stuff that it does, even if it's not really new at this point, it's like a very good version of it. Like, the battles, I think, are all still pretty good. I was worried that it's like, I don't think Dragon Quest is like super difficult, but just by virtue of them being older RPGs, they're a little tougher than like more modern stuff, I'd imagine. Yeah. So at the start, when it offers you the 3 difficulty options, I was like, I don't think I want to turn it up. I don't think I need that.
I certainly didn't do that either. Yeah.
Yeah. And then I thought, like, should I turn it down? I don't know. Like, I don't remember it being especially difficult when I played the remake. So I just left it on normal. And I think the battles has actually been really good. Like, it's a really good level of difficulty. You need to think about what you're doing. Like, until you're very overpowered, you can't just mash through a battle, really. Which I think is good. It's like, I think like RPG battles are just kind of contentious about like what the approach should be. Because I feel like people don't want to have too many of them because they get uninteresting, or they just they get in the way of doing other stuff. But I think, like, in Dragon Quest, they're always, like, they just require you to be present enough that each one is sort of like its own thing. You can't really just, like, zone out if you're in a new area, or at least that's what I've been discovering. So I think, like, the normal difficulty is fine so far. I've been having a really good experience with it.
It is thoughtful about telling you that you can change this later, though, if you regret your choice. So
yeah, that's very nice. Yeah. In fact, I was thinking, like you said, like I said, I guess I've been doing a lot of grinding, but it's been mainly because I just don't have enough gold to buy all the equipment I want.
Oh,
so I was like, well, maybe if I put it on easy, I could grind out some gold a little bit faster. But I also just feel like the battles are in a good place, so maybe I don't need better equipment. And I think it turned out that I was trying to go to an area that was like one ahead of where I was supposed to be, so maybe that was why I was having a little more trouble with the monsters there.
A little too ambitious.
A little bit, or just lost, which is another thing. Like, the world is pretty big, which is fun. It kind of guides you to where you're supposed to go next for the quest, but it also gives you a bunch of other sort of points of interest on the map that you can go check out. So it's like, oh, I have all these options. And it just turned out I went the wrong way, or I went a more difficult way off the bat. But yeah, it really does just feel like playing an old JRPG where it's a little less guided. It's a little more no frills, but like I said, the stuff that's in there is pretty good. It's pretty entertaining.
Yeah.
And yeah, like you mentioned early on, I think it looks great. It's like definitely the best Dragon Quest III has ever looked.
Mm.
It was funny. I was really like kind of scrutinizing the battle graphics. I was like, it certainly doesn't look like a PS5 game or Metaphor or whatever the new benchmark for RPG graphics is. Dragon Age maybe, but I'm kind of okay with it. I'm just wondering, like, are other people okay with this? Because it looks like, I don't know, it doesn't look amazing compared to modern games, but at the same time, I'm just kind of like, man, they should just make Final Fantasy XVII look like this, instead of doing the whole, just hyper-realistic PS5 exclusive version. I wonder if people would be okay with that, or I wonder if they want that, like, HD experience.
Yeah. I mean, that's the kind of the hard part, is that I don't play the Final Fantasy games. I've never played the old ones, and I don't play the new ones. So I don't like have that as my kind of standard bearer for what an RPG should look like. But certainly I've played the new Yakuza games and dabbled in a bunch of other indie stuff. But like in general, my association for kind of approaching JRPGs is kind of, I want them to be a little pixely. I want them to be, what was the previous Dragon Quest game? 11 came out.
Yeah.
I believe that like there was a 3DS version and there was a PS4 version. And I really wanted to play the 3DS version because from my perspective and in my experience, that's what a Dragon Quest game looks like. Like the super HD, fully animated and voiced characters, et cetera, like that just seems like too much to me. Like I don't need my Dragon Quest to be that pretty. And I'm not generally there because it's so good looking. I'm there because it's kind of funny and kind of weird and kind of witty. And, it has its own kind of, at least in the experience of the ones that I've played, there's definitely a brand to it, I think. Yeah. And I don't know that I necessarily feel that when it's giant HD graphics on my huge 52-inch television. Yeah, I kind of want it to be pocketable and little and portable and to just grind away at it like, during my commute or on the subway or something like that. Or, yeah.
Yeah, I think it's the same way, especially when it comes to Dragon Quest. Like, I didn't respond well to Dragon Quest VIII, which is like the first time it got really high sort of production values. Didn't love... when Dragon Quest XI eventually came out, it kind of gave you the option to play like this weird 2D version of it. Yeah. So I did that as opposed to doing the more like modern looking version, which was okay.
Well, that's funny. I do remember that because once it eventually came to the US, they didn't release the 3DS one, but they had like a hybrid one that you could play on the PlayStation 4, I believe, right? Where you could switch back and forth between pixel graphics and HD graphics.
Yeah, I don't think you could switch on the fly very easily. But what's even funnier is that like there was the fancy PS4 version, and then there was the 2D version, which I think were in those were both options when they came to the West finally. But like that 3D, the 3DS version had, I think, the 2D version, and then it had like a scaled down version of the full 3D PS4 one. It certainly didn't look as good as the PS4 version, but it was closer to something like Dragon Quest IX or like the 7 remake that they did for 3DS. Right. And I was like, that's probably the version I want. Because I felt like the 2D version, I think, was kind of like lacking in certain areas. Like some of the scenes just played out weird in 2D. But I was like, yeah, just give me another one that looks like Dragon Quest 9 or 7 even. That would be good. And then we just don't. Like, you can't play that one anymore unless you have the original 3DS version.
Yeah. Yeah, and that one only came out in Japan, right? I don't think that ever got localized for the US.
No, it didn't. Yeah, that was the Japan exclusive. So that's a bummer.
Yeah.
And then, but this one, like the whole 2D HD thing, HD-2D thing, whatever it is, I think it still looks really good. I wish they would make more games like this. I think that it's come a long way since, what was it, Octopath Traveler?
Mm-hmm.
The first one I can remember that used this sort of style. Like, they've really toned down the amount of like effects applied to it, so it's not like half the screen is blurry at a time. But it's just a really nice take on the sort of old 2D sprite graphics. And like, there's a lot more detail in the backgrounds this time too. Like, I think they're all full 3D or some approximation of it. They look 3D. There's a lot more detail in the overworld. There's a lot more like depth to the overworld, where like before you'd just be walking on obviously just a flat sort of map, but there are like hills and forests in Dragon Quest III. So that's kind of exciting. But yeah, I was thinking like it looks really good. I would love to see the next Final Fantasy look like this. Sort of take a retro turn, but they keep talking about remaking older Final Fantasy games. And I was like, they should do it like this as opposed to something like the Final Fantasy VII remake, which is that like incredibly like high production values, taking 10 years to finish it because it's just takes so long to build a game like that. But like, if they were going to remake like Final Fantasy VI is the big one that people want, just do it like this. I don't want the full like the trilogy approach. Just make a a slightly touched up version of it. Which I guess they kind of did with those pixel remasters a few years ago. But I would much prefer a game look like this, I think, especially a JRPG, than have it go the 7 remake or the Final Fantasy 16 approach.
Yeah, I think this would be much less interesting to me if it was exactly the proposition that you're talking about, where like suddenly it was huge widescreen HD, full motion, fully voiced, etc. It's like I don't. That just does not sound fun or charming to me. I kind of like want it to be this fun little thing, and they found a way to sort of keep that feel, but also make it, pretty and playable and have some modern conveniences kind of built into it. I think the Dragon Quest games have been a little tough for me in the past historically because you can only save in a very particular place usually. And there's, I believe in this one you can save anywhere, which feels like a crazy modern convenience.
I think it's a quick save. I haven't really looked into it, but
okay.
I've just been going to the church like always.
Yeah, like always. But yeah, it does. And even being able to change the difficulty in Dragon Quest III HD-2D or change your jobs or whatever later on, et cetera, all of that feels like, I don't know if that existed in the first version of Dragon Quest III, but it does feel like that's kind of the flexibility to a certain degree I want from a modern RPG or a JRPG. Maybe it makes it a little easier to not stress over some of those early game decisions if I know I can go like, oh, well, I can't break it. I can undo it later if I have to. I've had the experience of playing video games where you commit to a difficulty before the first frame of the game even starts, and I get hours in and I realize it's harder than I'm willing to participate in, and I'm stuck now because I can't change it and I have to start over and replay everything I've done or whatever. And it's cool to know that I'm going to spend a lot of hours with Dragon Quest III. Not as many as the modern games. I looked on how long to beat, and it is not some 100-hour affair, which is exciting too.
That's the other nice thing about this. I was like, so the original wasn't the like 100-hour monstrosity that the later ones are, but it's like more of a typical length for games back then.
Yeah. And
I was a little worried that it was like, oh no, is that the same this time, or did they like add in a bunch of stuff to like bloat it up to 100 hours? But it sounds like that's not the case, which I think is like unequivocally a good thing.
I mean, that is the thing keeping me from playing Metaphor, is that it is 100-something hours.
It was 200 hours.
Is it that long?
I think so.
And there's no scenario where I will ever see credits roll in a game that long at this point in my life. So it's just not realistic. And I'm interested. I'm very interested in that game. I played the demo a lot, but I know that I will never finish that game. So it's not realistic for me to even entertain playing a 200-hour RPG.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So yeah. I'm excited to play more of it. I think it does feel like they've done a very nice job of sort of updating it without losing the soul and personality of the original thing. So I'm curious to kind of continue to peel it back.
Yeah. I am looking forward to getting back into it. I'm like further into it than you are, it sounds like, but I feel like I've still just scratched the surface. Like I haven't even gotten to the point where I can change my jobs. So maybe soon. But yeah, it's been exciting because when they first announced this, I did not really have this on my radar. I was like, oh, Dragon Quest III Remake, that would be cool. So it's exciting that it's here. And I'm hoping... Sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, a question just popped into my head that some of the marketing for this has sort of referred to it as being part of the Edric trilogy.
Oh, yeah.
What does that mean, DJ?
The first 3 Dragon Quest games are connected. They're all sort of tied to this legendary hero. Like in the first one, you're his descendant, and then in the second one, how does it work? You're like the next generation after that, if I remember correctly, and then this one also ties back into it in a way that's really interesting. It's sort of like a retrofitted like trilogy. Well, it's not so much retrofitted, but yeah, they're all kind of tied together in a way that is not incredibly important if you haven't played Dragon Quest 1 and 2, but there is that connection if you have.
Interesting.
And they're like making 2D HD-2D updates for Dragon Quest 1 and 2 after this.
Right.
Which should be fun.
Cool. And I do remember you telling me at some point too that Dragon Quest build 1 and 2 are sequels to Dragon Quest 1 and 2.
Yes.
Is that accurate? Yeah.
Yes. Dragon Quest Builders 1 and 2 were direct sequels to Dragon Quest 1 and 2. So that was what I was going to say earlier, is I really hope this takes off and people get excited about Dragon Quest 3 again, because then we'll get Dragon Quest Builders 3, and that will be the best version of that game.
Yeah.
Where is that game?
Those Builders games are really good. I'm a big fan of those.
Yeah. No, I love it. Dragon Quest 3, like, I feel like it's inevitable that they will just come out with a Dragon Quest Builders 3 at some point. But, like, I mean, like, even if it doesn't take off in the West, just because Dragon Quest 3 was, like, this insanely huge game in Japan. So, I'm sure it's, like, flying off the shelves over there regardless of how it's doing here. And then we'll get, hopefully, a Dragon Quest Builders 3 sooner rather than later, because I would really love to check that out.
Yeah.
I just want more Dragon Quest Builders, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, that's fair. Cool. All right. Well, I mean, inevitably, I'm sure we'll check in on this thing later on. At the top of the show, we had mentioned Rez Infinite and Monster Hunter Wilds. Do you want to dip into either of those while we've got a little time left here?
I'll probably table Monster Hunter Wilds. I just had it on there because I played it during Extra Life, and I've been playing more Monster Hunter since then. I should talk about Rez Infinite, though. I played a little bit of that. This is a remake. Not a remake, but it's like a sort of an upscale remaster of Rez for the PS2 or Dreamcast. You ever play Rez?
Oh yeah, yes.
Okay. It's like kind of an on rails shooter, but the conceit that's really interesting about Rez is it is kind of like it integrates the soundtrack and the visuals together with the gameplay. So like everything you do, like when you're targeting enemies and shooting them down, they have like these kind of psychedelic visual effects, and you make different like sound effects that supposedly contribute and sort of like build together with the soundtrack, which is really interesting. Very, very like experimental. especially when it came out, because like I feel like it had a really difficult time catching on, because it was like it was a tough sell back then in like 2000 or so when this came out. Like ideally, this game is something that comes out at I mean, it's like very indie in spirit, so it comes out at like a lower price point to make it more accessible to people. It's a little more conceptual. It certainly doesn't have sort of like the depth of the breadth of content as like Grand Theft Auto 3, I think, was out at this point, or it came out shortly after the Dreamcast version. So people were just like, oh man, look at all this stuff you can do in a video game, and then here's Rez with like 5 stages and a few bonus modes. And it's just like, well, I could play Grand Theft Auto, or I could play this game, which is about shooting these weird wireframe monsters. Really only uses like 1 or 2 buttons. In comparison, it seems like why would you ever play this game?
Yeah, and it's very very music driven. It's like super like the game is 20 years old at this point, so kind of early 2000s like techno music essentially, right? Yeah, and drum and bass and things like that, and it's all very much kind of on the beat. But it feels maybe a little dated because of the soundtrack and the era in which all of that was sort of assembled.
Oh man, the soundtrack is timeless. What are you talking about?
Yeah.
Well, your mileage may vary, but
yes.
Anyway, so that's a long lead up to just saying like this is like one of my favorite games of all time. It's just like such an experience. It's like I don't do drugs while I'm playing it, but I feel like it's sort of like if you read between the lines, like, oh, maybe you could enhance your Rez experience in certain ways. But it seems like, it seems like it would be a good game for that. It also just feels like sort of the quintessential video game to me, because it's got all these like very wireframey, like VR kind of backgrounds and just aesthetics throughout. You're like the narrative of the game is like you're hacking into this this AI like network that has gone out of control or something like that. So it's a lot of Tron in there too. So that's kind of fun. But what's notable about this time that I'm playing it is that I'm playing it on my PSVR.
What?
I buried the lead there a bit. I picked up one of these things finally.
Oh.
And this is just a preview of sort of like the whole VR experience, because I've been very busy and I have not had a lot of time to really get into some of the other stuff that's out there. But I thought, what better game to try this whole thing out with than Rez? So that was my initial sort of like VR experience, and man, it is just probably the ideal VR game, I think, because it's on rails. You're just like aiming stuff with the pointer controllers. It's like very immersive. I don't know, like again, was not doing drugs, but you could do that if that's your thing. And it was just cool. It just like feels like you're in Tron or something like that. And by the way, where's that Tron VR game? Where is that? When is that happening?
Yeah. Well, maybe it will coincide with the new Tron movie.
Oh, maybe. Yeah. Maybe there's still hope for that.
Yeah.
But yeah, very cool sort of like intro VR experience.
Nice.
It's not changed a whole lot from the original game.
I was going to say, is it just the original, but now in VR?
So it's the original, and there's like this other mode that they've created. They haven't changed the original too much. I think there are some tweaks that I think they supposedly like limit the amount you have to turn your head, which didn't happen a lot in the original game. You would have to like move the cursor fully around your character, which would be kind of annoying. But it mostly, like for the most part, you spend a lot of the game just facing forward. But nevertheless, there are these fun opportunities where, like, if you've played Rez, the all these enemies, like waves of enemies, are flying around the screen all the time. And some cases, like, you won't be able to shoot all of them down, and they'll fly behind you. And in this, you can just like turn around and like shoot them as they fly past you, or sometimes they'll be above or below you, which is fun. Just it just feels more immersive. It feels like you're more surrounded by all these things. The boss fights are all very exciting because like the bosses in this are enormous, and it feels like they've like scaled them up maybe a little bit more just to take advantage of. It almost feels like you're watching an IMAX movie where it's like the whole field in front of you is the screen.
Yeah, cool.
And in this case, it's like a giant boss, so you have to kind of look up and down and see where the weak points are. But very good sort of like intro experience, and it also kind of helped that it was a game that I'm familiar with. So I just kind of see like, okay, so what is this like playing this in this new sort of like more immersive environment? And then there's like the new area that was created, I think specifically for VR, which is like, to be honest, that's not incredibly different from the standard Rez levels. It has a little more control over movement. I think you can sort of like fly around freely. You're not as confined to the rails as you are on the regular levels. And then the visuals just feel more like modern, like it's not wasn't something designed for the PS2 or Dreamcast. But yeah, that was also very cool. It lets you look around a little bit more and just kind of lose yourself, supposedly.
Cool. What other? I know this is the only thing you say you've played thus far. What other games are you eager to play on your VR? Did you pick up anything else with your purchase?
Yeah, I did. So fortunately, this whole thing coincided with like the Black Friday season, so everything was on sale. So I got No Man's Sky.
Oh, cool.
Finally, Gran Turismo 7. I had to stop myself from buying a steering wheel. Because I was just like, okay, I'm gonna calm down on this for a little bit. I got the like PC adapter thing, so I can actually play Half-Life Alyx, supposedly.
Oh, cool.
I was hoping to have at least one other game under my belt to talk about, even though this is meant to be just sort of a little preview. But the PC adapter, not as seamless as you would hope it to be. I don't know who to blame there, if it's PlayStation, or Sony, or Windows, or Steam, or who knows what's going on. But at some point I will play Half-Life Alyx. And there's other sort of standards like Beat Saber I like to check out. And then, much to my surprise, there's something called What the Bat?
Yeah.
Which is a VR game by the developers of What the Golf and What the Car you just talked about.
What? I didn't know that existed. That's great.
Yeah, and as it sounds, you're just holding a couple of baseball bats, and I imagine. I mean, you could probably imagine how the rest of the game unfolds, having played both those other games.
Say no more.
Yeah, although I am curious because I feel like, I feel like it may progress slightly differently than the other games, just because you're in VR. Like, who knows what'll happen? Who knows what they have in store? But I was very surprised to see that, so now I may have to check that out.
Nice. I will require a full report.
Yeah, so I'm hoping to get a little more time with it after getting a little more oriented with it over the next couple of weeks. We have sort of a holiday break, and then who knows? Maybe in January it'll just be all VR all the time.
VR January.
Yeah, it'll be VR January. Well, I do still have to play Dragon Quest 3. Dragon Quest 3 is not in VR, unfortunately.
Not yet, anyways.
Not yet. Yeah, in 10 years, there'll be another remake for the PlayStation VR 3 or something.
Yeah. Fun.
Yeah, so haven't spent a lot of time with it. I don't want to pass final judgment on it or anything.
Yeah.
But it was super cool playing Rez. I think if you are in the market for one of these things, you should definitely grab Rez along with it. But yeah, I'm excited to finally have one of these things. not totally sure if I'm like, oh, this is a good idea. This is a good decision I made, but just felt like now's the time.
Cool. Yeah, I still don't quite know if I understand the case for VR video games, but I'm curious to hear what your take on it is as we get further and further into this thing and you get your a little more time with it. So, cool. I'll admit I don't know anybody kind of in my personal orbit who has one. So I'm curious what your experience will be like.
I'm like kind of 50-50 coming out the other end and being like, yeah, PSVR, that's a good thing that everybody should use. But at this point, I'm just like more interested in the experience, just figuring out like, okay, what is this all about?
Right.
And it certainly helps that they have the option to connect it to Steam games at this point, supposedly, if I can ever get it to work. But until then, there's always Rez. There will always be Rez. I should give a shout out to friend of the show, Green Captain, for sort of giving me some pointers. He's definitely the biggest VR advocate that I know of. But he was like, "Hey, here's all the good games. Here's like he just gave me a bunch of like setup tips and general advice around it." So yeah, if you're also looking to get into VR, definitely a good person to talk to.
Cool. He was the only other person I could think of who had one. So
yeah.
Good. I'm glad you guys connected.
I'm not sure how much he's getting paid by Sony for every one of these units that he sells, but yeah. Well, I didn't press.
Official brand ambassador, Green Captain.
Yeah, exactly.
Cool. All right. Well, definitely buried the lead on that one.
Yeah. Well, if I had played Gran Turismo at this point, I probably would have put that at the front of the show. But yeah, we got to talk about Dragon Quest.
Yeah. Cool. All right. Well, let us wrap this thing up.
Let us.
If you need any more video game hangover in your brain, you should follow us on Twitter or Blue Sky. There are links to that at VGHangover.com. You can always get show notes and links and tell us what you thought about this episode also at VGHangover.com. Need to change this outro because I'm saying weird words. We would love for you to join us on Discord. That's really where the magic happens. You can get a link to that at VGHangover.com. And it would help us immensely if you could subscribe, rate, and review us on your podcasting app of choice. We are on so many of them. Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube Music, wherever fine podcasts are sold. And maybe help us out by telling your friends about the show.
Yeah, that really helps us out a lot. Helps us spread the word about the show, bring in new listeners. We really appreciate that. We also really appreciate RJ Lake for our intro and outro music this week. If you'd like to hear more of his work, you can go to spellmynamewithabang.bandcamp.com. I believe it's Bandcamp Friday this week. So if you would do that this Friday, that would be terrific. Just add all of his albums to your cart. Click on a few of your other favorite Bandcamp artists and add all their stuff to your cart. I don't know about you. I have this whole list. I'm just like making things arbitrarily more difficult for myself. I'm just like, I can only buy stuff on Bandcamp when it's Bandcamp Friday. So I just have this whole list of stuff. And whenever Bandcamp Friday rolls around, I have to like, all right, this is when I buy music. This is the time.
Yes.
So I'm ready.
Good. I mean, that is the best day to do anything on Bandcamp because all of the money goes to the people who make the stuff on Bandcamp.
Yes. Yeah.
Yep.
I'm still like, I don't know how the artists feel about it. Like, would they prefer people just buy their stuff whenever rather than, I don't know how much extra they get for people buying it on Bandcamp Friday, but
saving up for one day a month. Yeah.
Yeah. Trying to help them out. Anyway.
Yeah.
If you like to help out RJ, like you could, again, that's spellmynamewithabang.bandcamp.com. Check it out.
Cool. The other thing I'll mention here as a sort of slight detour is that I recently bought the soundtrack to El Paso Elsewhere on vinyl. And it is gorgeous. It's a beautiful foil cover, unique artwork on the front and back. It's like a blood splattered vinyl record. It's just the coolest thing in the world. So that inevitably helps RJ Lake as well. I assume he's getting a cut of that when I buy it. So if that is interesting to you, go to drownedworldrecords.com and check it out. It's really, really good.
Oh.
And quite pretty if you're a vinyl collector.
Cool.
Yeah.
I believe he hand paints all the blood splatters himself.
I can't vouch for that, but sure, let's go with that story.
All right.
Cool. All right. We will be back. When will we be back? We'll be back next week, right? 2 weeks? I don't know. Eventually, we'll be back.
We'll be back. Yeah.
That's why you should subscribe. That way we're just back.
Yeah. Don't forget, send in your Drunktacular questions VGHangover.com/drunk, and then join us for the live show. We hope to see you there.
Yeah, definitely. Until then, this is Randy Dickinson.
This is DJ Ross.
Thanks for listening to Video Game Hangover. Goodbye.
Good night.
See ya.